Hi folks, this is Cynthia from Bridget's Well YouTube channel. And you can also find me on Facebook at Tarot with Miss B. I'm coming to you with the Major Arcana Tarot cards. If you've seen some of the previous videos, I started back in October with Major Arcana key number 12, which is the Hanged Man. So we got into November and we were up to key 14, so I'd only done a couple of videos, right? And there were some questions came up for me looking at the key 14 being the Temperance card in most decks, and the development of consciousness and how things are going, what that card kind of means, and then looking ahead at key 15 and key 16, and it looked, I kept getting that Led Zeppelin lyrics, there are two paths you can go by. There's a process going on here. In key 13, the Death card, that's all about transitions and transformations. It's about taking the step to change your mind and thus your circumstances about something. Whether it be getting rid of limiting or false beliefs, whether it be changing a perspective, whether it be accepting an opportunity that could be a life-altering event like marriage or starting a family or moving to a different city, starting a new job, whatever the case might be, right? So with the Death card, about taking that step, having made a decision, having done some of the preliminary work, accepting that opportunity that comes to you, the force of change moving through your life, you may or may not have control over, but how you respond to it. Do you accept the opportunity to change, or do you, run away in fear and stagnate? And it's that decision that the Death card kind of represents, is taking that step, making that decision and taking that step. When you come to key 14, right, traditional decks have it listed as the Temperance card. And what is Temperance? Temperance is moderation. It's the balance. And there's a lot that goes into doing that. There's the blending of energies in order to balance them out. There's, being grounded in the practical reality, but also having an intuitive response to things and being self-aware enough to act on those responses. It's the middle road, finding that moderation, not going excessively in one direction or the other, but trying to stay balanced and focused in the middle, so that you're actually accomplishing what's on your path and what's in front of you and what's being presented to you. If you slice the word down, even though it's not necessarily the same Latin root, very similar, but to temper something such as metal, like in any kind of metal crafting, really, when you're working with the raw material, you're going to temper that metal ore with something else in fire and make it stronger. The symbolic representation of that is that when your new beliefs or your new structure or your new attitude is put under fire, so to speak, and tested, it is to make it stronger. So also temperance, moderation, has that challenge of making stronger, just as in tempering metal, making stronger decisions you've made, actions you've taken, and a new new sort of consciousness structure that, okay, I'm walking into this without the old limiting beliefs or without the old false beliefs. I'm working on a new structure, a new way of looking at things, and I'm going to accept this opportunity because I'm changing my life, I'm changing myself, I'm changing my circumstances. And you're being tested to be moderate, to not go into excess in one direction or the other, to stay grounded, focused, practical, and intuitively respond based on your new beliefs, your new perspective, your new consciousness. These are all things that are represented, I think, in the Temperance card, Major Arcana Key 14. So let's cover the two that I would have done in November and now in December. So 14, 15, and 16. If we start with the Temperance card at number 14 and we look at that perspective, then the next card is key number 15, which is typically the devil. And the representation of the devil is enslavement. It's about being chained. Those things that would make us intemperate, those excesses and those vices, whether they be in thought or behavior. Okay, so the bad thoughts and the bad feelings, that old way of thinking about things that we've worked so hard to get rid of. Okay, we've accepted a certain amount of moderation, but here's where it comes under fire, is when you face the devil, you're actually facing the chains that keep you in the old limiting beliefs, in the old false beliefs that you've already tried breaking. In the Hanged Man card, in, the Wheel, the Justice, the Hanged Man, and then into the Death card, you took steps to leave all of that behind. So then you've accepted temperance and moderation, and now you're being presented with the devil, which is saying there's temptation into excess, whether it be an excess of emotions or passions, or whether it be excessive behaviors, going too far to one extreme or the other, not maintaining that middle road balance, and swinging on the pendulum rather than just sitting in the center, right? So to a certain extent, that's the next step here. So the devil's really representing the enslavement, how if we're not conscious and aware of ourselves and our thoughts, if we run from uncomfortable thoughts, if we run from uncomfortable feelings, if we, don't handle them properly or acknowledge the fact that they're there. Some really super positive thinking people, bless their hearts, they'll be like, I'm not angry, I can't get angry. You know what I mean? They'll deny certain uncomfortable feelings, because they just try to flip it and switch it, which doesn't actually get to the heart of the problem. You have to recognize that you have that aggressive side. You have to recognize that you are a person with emotions, and emotions come up, and that's not the problem. It's what you do with it or don't do with it that tends to be the issue. Some people can be very good at doing that and it not really affecting them in the same way. Most of us fall into this realm of, you can fake it until you make it all you like, but when it comes down to it, 20 years from now, when you have a cancer or tumor or chronic illness or something inside of you, all of those years of positive thinking did not help you to release what that is, which is why your body reacts to it, right? So most of us don't necessarily work with that kind of extreme naturally. We need to find that balance. We need to find that middle ground, where we recognize what we're feeling, what we're thinking. We need to be aware of those things, and then we need to deal with them And it's not about it's not even about, you know, constructive coping mechanisms so much to deal with your anger or to deal with your jealousy or your fears or something like that, right? It's about truly getting down to the heart of where did the belief that makes you look at this situation and have that emotional reaction come from. And so the devil card is really a challenge too. Something is knocking you off of your moderate middle road that you got in Temperance card, and it's coming up and it's challenging, and it's challenging you to take a look at what is keeping you chained down, what is keeping you held back, what, or even the unfeeling aspect of it, not having any passions or any emotions, that the apathy, or the disinterest or the depression, right? Those are excessive beliefs and attitudes as well. They're just going, they're going down the road of keeping you petrified, still, stagnant, and unmoving, right? So even those can be challenges, okay? You know, recognizing your feelings, recognizing a feeling of disconnect or a feeling of depression or something like that is all well, good, and fine. And it's one thing to say, okay, my body needs rest, my mind, my spirit need rest. I just can't handle, you know, doing ABCD, or I'm not interested in ABCD. But what it really comes down to, what you would be challenged by, is to look deeper at, to what beliefs are kind of stewing and coalescing into like this stagnant mud in your mind that keeps you from wanting to feel, that keeps you from or keeps you from feeling, or keeps you from wanting to engage, or, you know, keeps you from exploring interests, makes you think somehow that you're wrong, or that this is the only way to be, and if you're not that way, then you must have a problem, you must be broken, you know. So in some fashion, the devil card is also then bringing us to a point of really exploring these aspects of ourselves. It's meeting the shadow side, recognizing that you have a shadow side, and that the reason you have a shadow side is because it brings something valuable to the table. You have to figure out what that value is. My shadow side is, for an example, somebody could say, my shadow side is my aggression. An untamed shadow side in that situation, the person could be a bully, the person could be bossy, the person could be assertive, self-centered, you know, sort of egotistical, whatever. On an extreme, they could be the sociopath. You know what I mean? But there's something valuable in the shadow side's aggression. Not how it comes out. That's dysfunctional. But when you recognize your shadow side and you embrace your shadow side and you say, okay, little one, you have power. You have great power. And there's something valuable that you bring to me as a person. If it's aggression, you look at that and you say, okay, I can utilize this as assertiveness. I can utilize this as persistence. I can utilize this as being able to set boundaries. I can utilize this as being able to sort of that creative aggression. It also stands in with like having boundaries, but being able to create situations or circumstances for yourself where you are standing strong, you are standing tall, you're not denying anybody else their right to be, but you are clearly saying, this is the line, don't cross it. And being able to handle those situations and the changes that that brings up. And that could be whether in business or relationships or family life or personal life or whatever the case may be. So there's a certain amount of value that comes with these certain things. So we have to look at what character traits that our shadow side actually has. And the Devil card also challenges us to that, to meet your shadow side and embrace your shadow side, because if left unchecked, it will bring in extremes that can knock us off balance, that can knock us off that path of moderation. And then 16 is entitled The Tower, or the Tower of Destruction, key 16. And that is another sort of, it has to do with revelation. It has to do with, it could be a major event or circumstance, or again, a revelation, an aha moment, an inspiration that comes in. Now, circumstances and events, sometimes they can be extreme, life-altering, and sometimes not in a good way. We feel like the universe has pretty much just sent a boulder, like the boulder that chased Indiana Jones in, what was that, Raiders of the Lost Ark? But like we could feel completely bowled over by circumstances that the universe has brought to a head, and they kind of explode and upend our world and everything like that. Hence the idea of the Tower of Destruction being looked at as a card of difficulty and bad things happening, is because there's an idea of like a rock bottom there, right? Something that happens, and everybody's rock bottom is different. You know what I mean? Something that is traumatic to one person might not be traumatic to another. But that has to do with our internal structure. That has to do with our lives as individuals, right? But at the same time, when people see the Tower card and they think of, okay, everything's just crumbling down around me. The whole world is upended, and boom, I'm just sitting in the rubble. Like, that's the idea behind some of the imagery in it, right? But the key to the nature of the Tower card is in that lightning flash of inspiration. It's in the revelation, it's in the aha moment. And sometimes circumstances have to really jar us and shake us. So it's a card of great opportunity. Even if the world has upended and it feels like everything's gone up in flames, and boom, you're left with rubble and dust. That's an opportunity for clean slate, start new and fresh. Something you missed. And again, a false belief, a facade, a limiting belief. There's a crack in the foundation, made the structure unsafe, and it came crumbling and crashing down, okay? But in the lightning flash of inspiration, the fire of creativity, okay? These are things that are also a part of and often depicted in the Tower card. And that idea is that revelation, that aha moment. This is an opportunity to do something different. This is an opportunity to look at, where was that crack in the foundation? Why was it unsound? And it needed to come tumbling down for a reason, not just because it was an unsound foundation, but because you have something else to do, and this would have blocked you from that, and so it needed to be removed from your experience, although that can be painful and heart-wrenching. And again, the revelations from meeting the shadow side or dealing with the devil, so to speak, that would come before can lead you to that aha moment if you accept it, if you're consciously aware. So the physical or life circumstances or events that could be represented by the Tower card do not have to be as bad as, for an example, you have an addiction to, say, social media or something of that nature, right? Or you're a workaholic or whatever. You're sitting in traffic and boom, you have a text, you have an email, you have a social media notification, whatever, and you pick up your phone and blah, 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 blah. How is that going to go? You could get into just a tiny bumper tap fender bender thing, you end up getting a ticket. Insurance doesn't really go up that much. It's not like the other person is a jerk and they're, gonna go for personal injury. It was a bumper tap. There wasn't even a dent. There's no damage to be, right? That's the easy way for you to have that revelatory aha moment and say, oh my goodness, I really need to like stick the phone in the glove box or turn it on or put on that, that automatic driving reply, like I'm in the car, leave me alone. I'll get to you when I get to my destination, kind of a thing, right? If you are self-aware, if you've done some of the work and you're aware of this and whatnot, then that could be your tower moment. That could bring the aha revelation because, maybe you're a person who's never been in a car accident. Maybe you've never, had that, or maybe you have, but you're like, whoa, I'm not doing that. I'm not going there again, right? So there's your tower moment. A little fender bender, you've got some fines to pay, nobody was hurt, this, that, the other thing, best case scenario, to get you to break that excessive habit, right? But I think all of us can imagine what the drastic, traumatic tower event in that same situation could be if you're not aware, if you're not willing to accept a certain revelation. That could have been the warning. But you know what? If you don't follow through with it in a week or 2 weeks, what if it ends up being 20 times worse? Because you didn't pay attention to the revelation. Or what if that was like the wake-up call to get you back on the bandwagon of something you were already doing, something you were already supporting, or an idea that you were already having. And there's your aha moment. It doesn't have to go any further than that, and you wouldn't want it to. You wouldn't want to invite that kind of disaster into your experience, right? So taking things like that seriously. That's just an example of how severe the tower card could be. It can go from very mild to very severe. And I suppose that's kind of true for any of the tarot cards, especially the major arcana that specify certain character traits, ways of being, ways of thinking, characters and events that can cycle through our lives. In some decks, this is where the two paths thing comes into play. There's one deck in particular that I work with, and it could follow through in some other decks, but in terms of developing consciousness, instead of jumping right to Temperance and then Devil and Tower, it actually looks at the development of consciousness a little bit differently. So when you come out of the Death card, you walk into number 14 is actually an alternate representation of the Devil card. And it's about going within, going in to do the shadow work. As soon as you make that transition and you make that decision from death, you go in and you do the shadow work. And you break the chains and you release things. And then you have your tower aha moment. And the revelations that come with that. You can accept the lightning flash of inspiration, or you can, bemoan your circumstances and crumble down into the rubble and have to go through this grieving process of, letting go of certain things. And then you come to the Temperance card, which, and it ends up a representation, a variable representation of the Temperance card in number 16 is about coming out of this healing process that you've gone through from the Death card to the inner work, shadow work, to the Tower, and you're coming out with a sense of strength and purpose, and you're coming out of that experience firm in the self-knowledge of what you need to do, where your boundaries are, and having gone through the process. And so that bringing up the temperance in that context, or also that strengthening tempering metal, right? You're really able to blend these energies and maintain that middle road path, maintain an awareness of where do you need to moderate, which excesses that you kind of have a game plan. You feel kind of in control, right? So that's why I say two paths, because one puts temperance first and puts it under fire, makes you have to challenge in that sense. Where are your boundaries? What are your excesses? Question those things and then place them under fire. And it's just a different process, right? The next card, which I would get into in the next video, being the Star card. Well, is it predestination or is it free will? Is it hope or is it direction? And off of these two paths, these two ways of looking at keys 14 to 16, Temperance, Devil, Tower, or flipping it around using the same titles, it would be going Devil, Tower, Temperance. It's two ways of looking at the same process. And what is this process called? In Celtic shamanism and a lot of other traditions, it's typically referred to as dark night of the soul. So you can imagine, even if, for an example, if there were a death of a loved one and you went through this grieving process, and if it was a particularly close relationship, there could be some self-revelation, some dealing with the self going on in there, or cases of diagnosing extreme illness and things like that. So different life-changing things that can happen with the death card that don't always mean physical death, but in terms of symbolic representation. And that's a good place to look at it, right? There's this idea of dark night of the soul, of going through a healing process to redefine the self. If the death card comes up, you're going through a change, you're going through a transition. Are you going to make a decision? Decisive action. Take a step through that threshold into another state, another way of thinking, another way of doing, another way of being. Hopefully with greater authenticity, with greater self-awareness. And in terms of your developing consciousness, really trying to pay attention to your thoughts and how your thoughts beget your words and your actions, and how your words and your actions actually beget your circumstances, whether you think you asked for it or not. So it's the dark night of the soul is also a process of healing and transforming as an individual, but it's also a process of looking at your maturity level in terms of what amount of personal responsibility are you going to accept. Is it always going to be a power struggle between you and the outside world? Or is it going to be you taking action and defining your circumstances and defining yourself, accepting yourself as is, and constantly working to that improvement, because you've got things you want to achieve, you've got goals you want to achieve, you have dreams that you want to make real, you have things that that you feel like need to be done in your life. So it's that process. So when you look, and I feel the energy this past season, especially November, and now we're into December, and it is in 2019, the year that I'm putting out this video, December 12th, and the full moon occurred this morning at 12 minutes after midnight. So 12/12/12/12, full moon. Here we go. So since November's full moon, when I started contemplating the Temperance card, and when I started contemplating these two different ways of looking at the patterns from 14, 15, and 16, and where we were going on our journey through the major arcana, and it took that full moon, new moon in November, November 12th, November 26th, I think, right before Thanksgiving. It was like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving here in 2019. And now here we are, December 12th, and it's another full moon. And so looking at 14, 15, and 16, looking at the energies, the Mercury retrograde that happened in November, looking at the way that things are changing up and everything like that. And it just seemed really poignant. I was having those questions. How do I do the Major Arcana Key 14 video? And kept going through, and boom, the universe was just like, chill out. You'll do it when you have to do it. You'll do it when you have to do it. And here we came. Full moon, new moon, full moon. Those three cards. And it's that energy of the dark night of the soul, which really has to do with going within, transforming from within, allowing outer circumstances to transform with us, and then coming out stronger, better, more aware, more authentic, and being able to really make certain things happen in our lives. So the next one will be Major Arcana 17, which is typically the star card, and we'll take a look at that the next time Spirit says do a video. So I wish you all a blessed Yuletide season this month of December and into the new Gregorian calendar year. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe to the Bridget's Well channel for more videos like this, and I'm gonna hopefully start putting up some other ones as well. And feel free to check us out on Facebook, Bridget's Well, or at universalcenter.casadega. I'm at Tarot with Miss B. You can also find us casadegabridgetswell.org online. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.